A lot of us have been wondering about what the mix would be between rookies and veterans. In the end, 31 people in that cabinet, 21 of them rookies, 10 veterans. Scott Reid is here with me, CTV's political commentator, former communications chief with Paul Martin at one point. You know, let's talk about this. Some of these key portfolios, finance, justice, defense, all going to rookie MPs.
Yeah, it's quite a thing. And so when Justin Trudeau and his team promised change, when they promised renewal, when they promised a new and fresh face to government, they delivered. And now they're going to have to govern with those folks. And they're not just in cabinet. They're in critically important portfolios, and to boot, they're in portfolios that are central to Mr. Trudeau's agenda. We have a rookie in infrastructure, right? Imagine somebody who's never been in government before now is going to have to work with other layers of government, other levels of government, and say, these are the kind of projects we want to initiate, these are the kind of projects we don't. That's complex, technocratic territory. We have a new Minister of Defense. We have a new Minister of Heritage. We have a new Minister of Environment who has to get on a plane in a week and go crisscross the world and talk about climate change. It's exciting.
There's a Minister of Science. Did you see that?
There is a Minister of Science. There's a Minister, I'll give you even better than that. There's a Minister of Innovation, Science, and Economic Affairs, and then there's a Minister of Science. So take that. How about that? We got two science ministers.
So, Bill Morneau, Finance Minister, arguably the most important position after the Prime Minister in Cabinet. What do you make of it?
Extraordinarily capable, extraordinarily accomplished, very tight with Mr. Trudeau's team. That's an important factor. And it isn't important because, oh, that's how he got the post. It's important because he's going to have to work hand in glove with the new PMO, with what they call in Ottawa, the center. That's what they call it. PCO, PMO is the center. And finance is going to have to work with the center and deliver what is in effect going to be a mini budget, I think, the next number of weeks. Because Mr. Trudeau has said he's going to recall the House. He wants to pass at least tax changes, so those middle-class tax cuts go into effect on January 1st. I wouldn't be surprised if he crams a few other things in there. Mr. Morneau has never brought forward a budget, never been part of a government, never been part of a government that's brought in a budget, and he's going to be scripting one very shortly. But he is a phenomenally talented person, and he's got a lot of talent around him.
The new Minister of Justice, Jody Wilson-Raybould, from this new riding of Vancouver-Granville in the Lower Mainland in BC. What does she bring to the table?
Former BC Aboriginal chief, someone of real accomplishment, former Crown prosecutor, so justice and justice system is nothing new to her. She'll be comfortable in that portfolio. But you saw an emotional reaction today. You talked about 3,500 people lining. I noticed in CTV's coverage, people talked about the fact that when her name was announced, there was an audible gasp, that people started crying, that there was a sense of relief. And that's because there's a real strong belief that with her and with Carolyn Bennett heading up Aboriginal, and well, they're going to call it now Indigenous Affairs, that maybe we can get real change when it comes to the treatment of Aboriginal people, she herself being Aboriginal, of course. So I think, you know, watch for her to be a rising star. I've yet to meet a person that tells me that she is not capable of handling anything thrown at her.
I want to ask you as well about the Minister of National Defense now, who also is from the Lower Mainland, Harjit Singh Sajjan.
Wasn't so long ago that if you wore a turban into a legion, you were asked to leave. Now the Minister of Defense has a turban. And this is a person who has served as a police officer, served as a soldier, has been an aide-de-camp to a governor general. This is someone of real, lieutenant governor, I should say. This is someone of real accomplishment who will fit into the portfolio right away. But boy, oh boy, it's a big and complicated portfolio, particularly when we think about our ISIS mission, when we think about the role that defense has to play in so many of our external affairs activities. So that we take a look at one of the big challenges for this government. It's promised that all these refugees will be able to come in. Defense must play a role in that.
Sure.
They're going to play a big role from a logistics standpoint in that effort. So that new minister is going to hit the ground and hit the ground running. But again, he does come with a resume and an experience where the language and the content and the context in which he'll be operating is familiar to him.
One last thing before we go. There were some people who were expected to be in Cabinet who were not in Cabinet. Three in particular that you wanted to mention.
Well, when you shrink a cabinet, when you take it from 40 to 30, you're going to leave some people out. And when you have as many great resumes as you have, not everybody's going to get the call. Bill Blair, recruited, former chief of police in Toronto, recruited in Scarborough, wins, not in. Adam Vaughan, right, recruited again, beats Olivia Chow, not in. So when we take a look at these people...
And Andrew Leslie.
And Andrew Leslie, pardon me, Lieutenant General out of Orleans in the eastern part of Ottawa, and he's an outstanding public servant also. So these three people didn't make it into cabinet. My message would be this: cabinets change. If you know, 18 months from now, there will be opportunities because cabinets get shuffled and people move around. And when you think about who were the strong women and men of Stephen Harper's cabinet at the end, and how did that compare to the middle, and how did that compare to the beginning, there's lots of time. The number one thing, I worked in a Prime Minister's office. Do not get discouraged. Don't backbite. Don't complain. Put your head down, work hard, and show the Prime Minister I'm a team player, and chances are there'll be room on the team for you.
Scott Reid here in studio. Great to get your expertise, my friend. Thanks for this.
Thanks, Todd.